Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. This is the Lake Street Project Information Meeting. The project is from Shakespeare to Olmstead, so our project is impacting the other side of the business loop. I'll quick do some introductions. I know there'll be some more here in the presentation, but I'm Ryan Minkus, the County Engineer for the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County. We have Sarah Phillips, a Communications Administrator, Bill Ox, Road Maintenance Superintendent, Mark Warden, Communications and Engineering Director, something like that, Commissioner Larry Stahauer, and Commissioner Michael Boersma. So again, thank you all for coming out here this evening. So in 2023 here, we do have this project on Lake Street. Again, before I get too far into this, I want to mention, you don't have to take notes or pictures of this presentation if you don't want to. We will make handouts available when we're done. On your way out, you can grab them. So feel free to kind of sit back here and just enjoy this. If you want to take pictures, by all means, go ahead. But so here's the project limits. You can see here, we've kind of highlighted in red where we'll be working. The project is being funded by the City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Township, the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County, and there's a contribution from the Kalamazoo County Parks and Expo Center for some sidewalk in the project. So first off, we want to kind of get into here who's doing the work. The contractor for this project is Milbacher & Sons Incorporated. For inspection, we have a consultant working for us, and that's Prine & Newhoff out of Kalamazoo here. So the oversight from the municipality side of it, so all those entities, Parks, Kalamazoo Township, City of Kalamazoo, the Road Commission is kind of overseeing all of that. So Jim Hoekstra is Assistant County Engineer. His picture's on top there. He's working on this project, as am I, and as I mentioned, I'm Ryan Minkus, the County Engineer. So when the Road Commission does a project, we use a mix of fixes. We have many tools in our toolbox, and the way I kind of look at this is like, when you have a car, there's different levels of maintenance you do to it, right? So the three levels we have here are preventive maintenance, rehabilitation, and restoration. So that preventive maintenance when it comes to car work is like doing an oil change in your car. Kind of keeps things running, keeps things going along. For us, that type of work is a chip seal, where it kind of is protecting everything that's under there and protecting our investment. Next, you get to the rehabilitation projects, where more extensive repairs are needed. So kind of in the car analogy again here, say your transmission goes out and you kind of want to evaluate, is the car worth getting the transmission fixed? For us, it means coming in and taking off a layer of asphalt and kind of putting it back on to kind of keep things going along for a few more years. And then finally, we reach a reconstruction project, kind of like we have out here for Lake Street. And that's, you blew the engine in your car, or it's kind of time to scrap it and move on to something new. So we're going to start over here with Lake Street and the work we have going on out here. So you may be asking yourself, how was this project selected? So the Road Commission did identify in our primary road capital improvement plan, which we do every year, this road as a project. Why? It was last paved in 1992. So 30 years is a pretty good run for a road. Probably reaching the end of its life here based on what we're seeing. The last chip seal we did was 10 years ago in 2013. So we have been doing the preventive maintenance in that 30 years. Ultimately, there is a surface condition rating tool that's used uniformly across the state to evaluate the condition of roads. That's called PASER. If you want some more information on that, we can always talk about that later. But it's on a scale of 10, and essentially Lake Street was at a 4 out of 10 on that scale, with 10 being a brand new road. So we were reaching a point in the life of the road where it was coming to a point where we needed to do some major work. So when we had identified this in our capital improvement plan, Kalamazoo Township came to us and said, hey, we've got some bad stretches of sanitary sewer in that road. We'd like to partner with you and do a project to replace our sanitary sewer. And then we reached out to the City of Kalamazoo and they said, yeah, we've had a lot of water main breaks in that area. We could stand to upgrade our facility too. So we decided to partner together with that, and even as we began going through this process and had utility relocations being done, consumers had some old gas lines out here, they wanted to rerun everything. So essentially we're kind of getting a whole new infrastructure, even underground, with this project. So it's a pretty good investment overall. So as I mentioned, City of Kalamazoo is working on the water main, Kalamazoo Township is the sanitary sewer, and some sidewalk work is being done with County Parks and the Expo Center. So some general project information we have here. The overall contract is $5.2 million. So this is a major project from our side of things, from management, from the Road Commission. So we did start work on this project on March 20th, and the scheduled completion date right now is December 2nd. So this is a very long construction project for us. The work in here includes water main replacement, sanitary sewer replacement, sidewalk installation, complete road reconstruction, so curbs, gutter, pavement marking, signs, all of that stuff. We're not planning to change the speed limit with the road with this project. And I do want to just mention that construction happens out of doors, so of course the schedule is weather dependent. Things could shift around. Maybe if everything stays dry this summer, contractor could get ahead on stuff, but we'll have to see. It's a long schedule to say yet where we're going to finish. So impacts to traffic. This is usually what everybody's most interested in. And there will be closures and detours in place for this project. The work is going to be done in 5 segments. We started the first segment already, so you have seen the work, if you've been out there, going on the west side of the business loop. So with these 5 segments, there's only 3 detour routes we need. So we're not going to be sending you on a different route every time we have to close a section of the road. So we'll go over that in some more details here in a minute. There will be a closure of the business loop at Lake Street for 7 days during this project. We'll have some more details on when that's planned here right now, but it will be a full closure of the business loop for those 7 days. With the work that's going on, your driveways and side streets may be inaccessible at times. Contractors have to do work. You may have to go around the block to get access in it one way or another. If we do work at driveways, we do generally tend to put gravel ramps in if there's elevation changes so you can get in and out, trying to maintain access to your property. Emergency vehicles will have access within the closures at all times, so there's no issues or concerns with emergency services being able to get in if you need their services. I want to also mention Prine and Newhoff again is the inspectors for us. They have a website set up on their website, so prineandnewhoff.com. Then they have a link for projects, and at the bottom of that page is one for Road Commission Lake Street. And if you go to that page, they're updating kind of daily what's going on, and then what the anticipated work for the next week. I see a question, and I'm going to kind of get through the presentation here, and we'll take questions at the end if we can. So jot a note. We'll come back to you. So yes, again, this website, they're updating with information. Road Commission, I'll share some ways you can get the information from us as too. We're putting information out about this. So that's all well and good, Ryan. What are the actual impacts? So this is the phase we are currently in. Phase A, stage 1, has Lake Street closed from west of Shakespeare to the business loop. Now I understand they're working in different parts now, so part of that might be open, but for this phase, the duration was planned to be from March 20th to May 25th. The detour for this route is the business loop to King Highway, to Branch Street, Vine Street, and back to Mills Street to reach Lake Street. Local access within that work zone may be impacted depending on where the contractor is working, where they have to stage their equipment and materials. So some of that details we don't know because the contractor will be figuring that out on a day-to-day basis. Then the contractor is scheduled to switch to phase B, so he's going to move to the other side of the business loop on Lake Street. This phase is going to close Lake Street from the business loop to Lamont Avenue. This is scheduled to occur from May 30th to July 22nd. The detour for this route is the business loop to Olmstead. For those of you counting at home, this is detour route number 2, right? So there's one more route that we're going to have to highlight to get you around the project. So again, depending on where they're working, what they're doing, access might be hindered a little bit temporarily while they're working in front of your properties or businesses. But we should be able to accommodate you getting in and out. So that third detour route is the most impactful. It happens when we come back here to Phase 8A, Stage 2. This is the closure of the business loop at Lake Street. As I mentioned previously, this is planned to be a 7-day long closure, anticipated to happen from July 24th through July 31st. So the detour route for this is take Olmstead to the business loop, back to River Street, to the King Highway, then to Branch, Vine, and Mills Streets to loop back around onto Lake Street. After that, the contractor is going to move back onto Lake Street here. We're going to move further on down. So Phase C is a Lake Street closure from Lamont to Roy, and that duration is anticipated to occur from August 2nd to October 6th. Again, this is a similar detour we had with Phase B, where it's simply taking the business route down to Olmstead to get around the closure. And then finally we have Phase D, which is closing Lake Street from Roy Avenue to Olmstead, and this is anticipated to occur between October 9th and December 2nd. So we are aware, and want to thank the Expo Center here for hosting our meeting tonight, that they have events going on, and we have been in communication with them and working with our partners to make sure we can keep everybody operating with minimal impact as possible. So access for the Expo Center shall be off Olmstead, and all traffic will be directed to that location. There is a driveway over there. We are not doing any work on Olmstead, so there will be access to the Expo site that way. No work is going to be allowed during the NSRA weekend, which is September 9th and 10th. And there's a little bit of buffer on either side of that the contractor has to make sure everything's closed up and out of the way so everybody can get in and out. But the contractor is going to provide full access to the Expo Center entrances from both directions, the business loop and Olmstead, and also access to Lamont Street during that time. So we are aware of the magnitude of that event and the impacts it has here at the Expo Center, so we're going to do everything we can to get things buttoned up and out of the way so there's less impacts. Other events may be directed to other access points depending on the phase of construction. However, the Expo Center will be open and events will be happening here during the construction project. So you're a resident or business owner, what should you expect during construction out here? At times there's going to be temporary differences in height between your driveway and the road and where the contractor's working. As I mentioned, during those elevation differences, they do try to provide gravel ramps to get access up and down from the dirt gravel road surface to your property. Mailboxes may have to be adjusted, moved out of the way, but mail service will not be disrupted. Mail service will be allowed to come in and deliver mail during the project. There will be rough or gravel surfaces out here. The contractor can water, we can use dust control, but that doesn't last forever. And even if they do, there still is dust. So you need to understand that that is going to create a dusty situation. We aren't going to 100% be able to eliminate dust on the project. We will do as best we can. We're telling everybody to expect delays when traveling in the area. There is a lot of traffic on the business loop. I know not as much directly going down Lake Street when you look at just traffic volume wise, but having to follow on detours and sending everybody those routes can create delays and backups. So just add some more time to your travel time if you have to travel in this area during the project. Lawns and yard area, disturbed lawn and yard areas will be restored. I do want to mention, however, that does not include irrigation or sprinkling systems. So those will not be repaired with the project. If you have questions about that, we can talk about that after the presentation. And then during paving, there may be delays anywhere ranging from 15 to 30 minutes potentially on getting in and out of a side street or a driveway or that sort of thing. I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that when we get to another slide here in a minute. So what should you expect during each phase? Essentially, each phase is kind of being looked at as a mini construction project, but they're all tied together. So the contractor is essentially going to almost complete each phase before they move on to the next one. And what does that mean? Well, all the water main, sanitary, storm sewer, all that underground work is going to be done. We're going to have curb and gutter in place if it's called for on the plans. If sidewalks called for, the sidewalks will be in place. Driveways will be restored to their hard surfaces. Then 2 of the 3 layers of pavement are going to be put back down. So while it will look like the road is done, there will be an elevation difference, especially if you have a curve. There will be 2 inches of a grade change between where this last layer of pavement during each phase will be done and then the curb elevation. And then finally, they will come in and do all the grass reseeding, putting down straw mat. The contract does not include watering and weeding, so if you would like the grass seed we put down to grow faster, we would encourage you to help out and kind of water that. And so I mentioned that we're doing 2 of the 3 layers each phase. That's because once all the phases are done, the contractor's going to come back and pave that last layer of asphalt all at once. So we have fewer joints in the asphalt, which prevents water from getting in, which will help the longevity of the road. So I again have the schedule up here. This is the same information that was kind of on each phase stage, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But again, just kind of wanted a 1-page summary here of the whole project so you could look at this as a one-stop shop to kind of look at the overall schedule. So as we start to get into the project, the types of work you're going to see out here, because of how close we are to the river, the water table is rather high. The contractor has to do what we call dewatering, or essentially drawing the water table down around where they're working so they can work in dry conditions. So they have a bunch of pipes and tubes and pumps running connected to draw the water down and dry everything out. So once they get the area dry and can work, then they can come in and start all that major underground work we have to do. So sanitary sewer is usually the deepest utility that we run into in our right-of-way. So that's where they're probably going to start, is digging down to get all that in place. Next comes the water main, and those connections will be made in addition. So both sanitary and water will have to have connections made to the businesses as well. So those will have to happen during each of these phases so that when everything's switched over, everything is hooked up and running properly. And then finally, for the underground work, we'll get to the storm sewer. We have multiple catch basins across roads, running up and down the road that we have to connect. So there's a lot of work with that. In addition, we are connecting into a county drain towards the east end of the project to manage some of our stormwater. I want to let everybody know there is some downtime as possible. You may look out there and it may look like the contractor's left and nobody's doing any work and nothing's going on, and it's a nice bright sunny day and you're going, what the heck is going on here? Why aren't they working today? There may be reasons for this. A lot of our materials require testing, and that testing takes time and takes time to get the results back. So there may be delays for that, waiting to approve what the contractor is putting in. Additionally, with water main, there are certain tests they need to make sure that the system can maintain the pressure they need it to operate at, as well as being sanitized and cleaned to the level they need it before they open everybody's house back up to that water source. While Milbacher is our primary contractor on this job, there are other contractors working for them, and there may take some coordination on trying to line up when contractors can come in and actually get their work done. And then finally, agencies that issue permits have the opportunity to come in and inspect whatever they're permitting before they let it all be buried and put back underground. So I know Eagle State Environmental Office permits water main, and so they may want to see something before it all gets buried, and we might have to wait a day or two for their inspector to come out and look at it if they so choose. What we want to assure everybody that once they're given the go-ahead, the contractor will be back out there to work. They are committed to this job and to us for this construction season. Also want to reiterate that even though work's not going on out there, this does not mean the road is open to traffic. You still should stay out of the construction zone because the conditions in there may not be set up for traffic to travel through. So kind of want to get back to the road. Now that we've got all the underground stuff kind of out of the way, we're going to make sure we get back up to the elevation we need for the road. So we're going to bring in gravel, and that's going to be leveled and compacted so we can have a solid base to build on. Concrete curbs are going to be formed and placed where we need them on the project. And don't worry that if a curb is going across the front of your property, we are going to have those dub downs at the driveway so that you're not going to have to drive over a 6-inch curb to get back out onto the road. Sidewalks will also be installed at this time where they're called for on the plans. The locations for those have been determined, so we know where we want to put those. It's not on the entire project. And details of this are on the plan sheets that we have. So driveway access, as a part of safety measures whenever we do projects, we also look at driveway access. So whenever someone is entering a roadway, the person driving on that roadway in a vehicle has to try to figure out where they're coming from, where do I have to watch for people. So if we have driveways that are 60, 100 feet wide and people can just drive in and out wherever they want, it can pose a safety issue. So there are some locations on this job where we're looking to narrow up some of those driveways back to more standard widths so that it's just not, I'll say, kind of a free-for-all when coming out of properties. And motorists on the road as well as exiting the properties have a better idea of where those interactions can occur. So you can see here on the pictures on this slide, we have a before, during, and after instance of where we narrowed up a driveway a little bit that was right near an intersection, letting people know that, hey, you can kind of come in this driveway, but you shouldn't come out because you're within 10 feet of a stop sign in the intersection. It's kind of a safety concern for us. So driveway approaches, we mentioned with curb and gutter. The curb sits up 6 inches higher, so we have to make sure that we can address grade issues from where the road elevation is to where we got to tie back in to make sure that you can get in and out of your buildings. In this case, you can see the garage door there. We want to make sure that when we're done with the project, that we're not creating an issue where you can't get in and out of your property. So I know we've approached many of the property owners already about temporary grading easements so that we could have that permission to work outside the right-of-way to get those the driveways and approaches back to a grade where they wouldn't have this situation. We'll finally get to asphalt paving. And again, this is going to be done, there's going to be 3 layers of asphalt put down, and they do half a road at a time, so they're going to come down six different times to do the paving here. So when the pavers are going by, I understand, like right now that it's a little light on the screen here, but that may look like, hey, that's nice new asphalt, they went by, I can just drive past them, right? That's very hot, it hasn't been compacted. If you were to drive on that, number one, at this point you would sink in. Number two, if you were to turn, you would just start tearing that all up. So when the contractor or inspector is out there and telling you we can't let you drive on the asphalt, it is to protect this investment that we're putting in the road. So we do need you to be patient. Again, as they're crossing driveways, side streets, we may have to hold up access and not allow you in and out until that's cool enough to allow you to drive across. And at that time, they're probably going to direct you, hey, drive straight across this and turn off. Don't pull out here and then turn your wheels because you're going to start digging everything up and create a big issue, and that's likely going to create potholes for us in the future, which is what we're trying to avoid. So once the paving's done, contractor's going to come in and do restoration. Again, so any grass areas that are disturbed are going to get seeded, topsoiled, and we're going to put a straw mulch blanket on top of that to help hold the moisture and the seed down. So again, if watering and weeding is not part of the project, if you as property owners would like to assist with that and not rely on Mother Nature, that would be greatly appreciated. We will also be updating all the signs through the corridor, so we want to make sure when we do these projects everything is up to date, meeting current standards for spacing, types of signs, that sort of thing, so all the signs will be updated. And one of the final things you'll see is the pavement markings going down on the road, letting everybody know where they need to stay in their lane, center turn lane, that sort of thing. So I know Jim, our assistant county engineer for a number of years, has managed our pavement marking program, and I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know that he would like me to remind you not to drive through the wet paint. Because it not only tracks on the road, but it can get on your vehicle, which is not a great thing either. So when you do see one of these vehicles and it does say wet paint, it is serious, and if you could be patient and kind of follow along till you can turn out when you're not driving across that, it would be appreciated. So I know everybody's going to be happy because that's the end of the project, but I also want to let you know we're going to be back in a year or two to chip seal this road. You might be questioning why a brand new road, are you going to chip seal it? And again, to go back to my car analogy from earlier, if you've got a new car, when are you going to undercoat it? Are you going to undercoat it when you just buy it, or are you going to wait 6 years to undercoat it? So for us, the weather and sun, water and the sun are the two major enemies of our asphalt. So if we can get this layer of asphalt and stone on it earlier, it helps protect that investment, and we've seen this extend the life of pavements that we've been doing this on for about 6 or 7 years now. So we are approaching the end of the presentation here, so thank you for sitting with me here through all this. We have our contact information on here. I won't read every one of these, but we do have a phone number at the office, our website. We have social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We do monitor those. We also have our office that's at 3801 East Kilgore Road, which is just up Sprinkle Road if you did want to stop by and talk to us. So I know I mentioned Prine and Newhoff has that website to keep you up to date. We also have tools to help keep you up to date. RCKC Connect is our primary way to do that, and I know we have business cards on the table in the back that also have information on how you can sign up for this. So you can, it's voluntary sign up. You sign up for whatever you want to. For example, you can sign up just for K Township updates. So if you're in Kalamazoo Township, anytime we have a road closure, a detour, a project update comes out, you'll get a notification that there's something going on in K Township and you might want to look into it. You can sign up via email, text message, that sort of thing. We do encourage people to be aware that things like emergency road closures happen overnight. So if you do want those text messages, you may be getting text messages at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So if that's something you're concerned about, maybe you want to go the email route and get up in the morning and see there's something there. I do, again, want to thank the Parks and Expo Center here for hosting us. It's not very often we have a facility right outside the project where we can host the meeting. It's a great benefit to us here. And I know they've been generous in giving us the room till 7 o'clock, so we do want to honor that. And again, a copy of this presentation will be available on the table at the back of the room by the sign-in sheets. We did record the presentation here, so we do post these on our website under the project section. So if you have any friends or neighbors who were not able to make the meeting, they can go to that website and watch the same video to get this information. Generally, that's posted about 2 or 3 days after we do the presentation here. And there's the website is on the screen right there. So with that, I'd like to open the floor up to kind of general questions about the project. If you have specific questions about a specific property, I think we'd like to handle those individually to make sure we're respecting everybody's time here, and we can pull up some more information and try to get into more detail on what you need. So again, kind of want to open the floor up here to general questions for the project.
Which side are the sidewalks going on?
I think there's both sides, so it's not. Thank you, Bill, just reminded me. So the question was, I'm going to repeat it just for the recording in case they didn't hear. So the question was, which side of the road are the sidewalks going on? And it's a mix of both, so it's not consistently on one side. So we'd have to look at plans to look at a specific location to answer your question on exactly where you may be interested to know where the sidewalk is.
Will there be any surface maintenance on Lake Street in the meantime? Because there's some hellacious potholes out there.
So the question, I didn't know where you were asking for that. So the question was, will there be service on Lake Street?
Surface
maintenance. So yes, we can put in service requests and make sure that if you call in a service request, we can get out here and throw in some patch to make sure those holes are filled.
Yeah, there are some hellacious holes.
There's something not that deep out there.
Well, they filled one. They're all really, really bad.
Yes?
Why are they cutting down some of the trees?
Some of the trees were needed for some of the utility work. So the question was, why are they cutting down some of the trees? So the depth of what they had to do and where they were putting the facilities were impacting the root system for those trees. So we needed to make sure that those trees were taken out to accommodate the work we needed to do.
Are they supposed to fill the holes in after they grind out the trunk?
So the question is, are they supposed to fill the holes in after they grind out the trunk? Yes, we will be restoring everything back once we're done. Again, the work is just, I think most of the trees were on the west end.
Lake and DuPont.
Yeah, so we had to get the trees down by a certain time, so we wanted to make sure the trees were down and done. Once they come through, we're going to restore everything that was disturbed.
How far down the side streets will the service work affect?
So the question is, how far down the side streets will the service work affect? Generally, we take it so there's a radius, and at the end of those radii is kind of typically where we look to end that work. So it's not more than 20, 25, 30 feet. We're not talking 100 feet, 150 feet down the side streets. In some instances, I know with Cade Township, and doing some of their local stuff, like on Lamar, they had come up to a point, and we're going to match that point, is where we're going to come back to when we do the work on Lamar.
Could you touch a little bit more on access roads for the Expo Center and for the businesses on Healy and Washington, and there's a few homes back there as well?
Yeah. So the question was access roads and businesses on Healy and Washington, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to walk up to the map here because we do have permission and are constructing a temporary connection back through here to Lake Street. So when work is going across Healy and you can't get in, that will be open as an access to get around there.
Okay, where Goggin is.
Yes, exactly. We got permission from them to essentially construct a temporary road
Where
back
there
out
used to be a
correct.
road.
Where that connection used to be. We're putting that back in for the project.
I remember.
And it'll be removed when we're done with the project, so it'll go
Okay,
back
and
to the way it is.
guardrails will be back there.
Correct.
Okay. And just on that, between Lamont and Healy, will there be an access road as well?
No, we're not. So the question was, will between Lamont and Healy there be an access road? And no, there's not
It'll
planned.
just be Boardman.
Correct, it will
Okay.
just be Boardman.
So is there some reason why during this phase someone can't go down Lake Street and then turn down one of the side streets to the north and go down Carlton to access an area that's under the construction zone period there, section? I have a business, I mean, maybe later I'll ask the
Yeah, it
question.
might be better if we can look at the full detour and you can say, here's where I am, how can people get in? That might be a better way for us to help address that.
Did you say that driveways would be accessible?
Yes, well, we're gonna have work going on, so there will be times when the contractor's working across there that you can't get in there, but when they're done, they should be putting gravel and whatnot back in to allow you to get in and out of driveways.
These times are estimates, right? So it could, each phase could be delayed a little bit and it could go even later into the year.
So the question is, the timelines are estimates and the project could go later into the year. And the answer to that really is yes. The contractor's given us their best estimate of the time frames they think it's going to take to do the amount of work in each phase. We told them you can start here and end here, and they built their schedule there. So we are trying to get our intent is to get this project done in 1 year. I think fail-safe or stopgap we have for that is with each section getting done through 2 layers of asphalt. If it gets to that end of the year and we can't put the top layer on, we still have the paved road at the end of the day. You're not going to have a gravel road through the winter. Additionally, when the contractor moves on to the next section, you're not going to have a gravel road in front of your house or business for the entire summer. So it kind of minimizes that dust impacts to localized areas for the sections.
Signage. before this project started, we were told we would have signage to our businesses.
So the question, is there a question there, or is that a statement?
That is a question. Where is it?
The question is, where is the signage for their businesses? And I'm not aware of that statement being made. I don't know what specific signage you're referring to, what you were looking for. On our road projects, we typically do not sign for like open to businesses or whatever like that, because we want the road, it's closed to through traffic is what the signs say. So anybody who has a destination in there is allowed to be in that work zone. It's closed to anybody who wants to traverse through the work zone. Any other questions?
Yeah. There are a number of businesses along that street, along Lake Street. If you're taking a hard surface, concrete, asphalt, as that serves access to the front of the building or the business, are you replacing it with like material?
I will have to look, yeah, I'll repeat the question. So the question is, if we're removing someone's driveway, are we going to replace the driveway with the same material that was there? We'll have to look at the plans again. It's not clear to me exactly what's on there. I believe we are, because there is a detail for concrete driveways. So it appears to me that we will be replacing concrete with concrete and asphalt with asphalt for hard surfaces.
Are you moving the property lines back?
So we did, so the question is, are we moving the property lines back? So there is a right-of-way that's established for the road, right? We can work within that. If we have to do something outside of that, we have to come to an agreement with the adjacent property owner. There's two types of agreements we had out here. Was permanent, so we were permanently purchasing the land from the property owner to be used as right-of-way for our use in the future. And the second was temporary, what we call grading easements. And so these easements are temporary in nature. They only allow us to work on the property during the project. In each agreement, it said that it expired 3 years from the date it was signed, so we don't have permanent permission to access that property. So we already have all the permanent right-of-way purchases that we needed for this project, as well as temporary agreements in place with property owners to do grading adjustments to make sure things like driveways won't have a huge bump when coming out of the property back onto the roadway. Good question.
Seems like last year someone said the road was actually be somewhat narrower than it is currently.
So the question was, last year there was conversation about the road being narrower, so the pavement cross-section is going to be narrower. The existing paved section that's out there is wider than we need, so when we look to put back a 3-lane section, so 1 lane in each direction in the center turn lane with a small shoulder before that curb, we didn't need to go back out as far as we were. So essentially, the north side of the road, that curb line is going to come away from the buildings and the properties, I think is the way that works, for where we have that ability. So not everything is going to magically move from there, but if we were, that was...
So all the temporary easements that you did not get, you're staying off of our property, is that correct?
So the question is, for temporary easements we did not get, we're staying off the property. Yes, we do not have your permission to be on your property. So we will have to tie back in to whatever elevation we cut out at and tie it back into wherever we are with the road. So there may be a bump at your driveway if we didn't receive that temporary agreement from you to be able to grade.
What's the significance of the flags and some of the markings that are already on my property?
Asking for the significance of the flags and some of the markings already on the property. So whenever underground work is being done, contractors are required to contact the MISDIG system, which notifies all the utilities that work is going to be done, and they have to come out and locate all their facilities. So they will put spray paints, flags, and the different colors mean different types of utilities. Blue is water, I think green is like sanitary, yellow is gas. So there's different designations for what each one means. typically when our inspector is out there and we're doing work for our project, they will put marks in pink. So if there's pink dashed lines, that probably means somewhere where something's getting a saw cut. If there's an arrow pointing, say you're at your business, there's this dashed pink line and then there's an arrow pointing back towards Lake Street, that means there's a saw cut here and they're going to remove to that side of the dashed line. So whatever's on the other side of the arrow will be remaining there when the contractor comes in. So that, without seeing specifically what's out there, that's kind of just a general overview of what the different marks that are out there mean. Yeah.
One more question. I'm kind of curious about the drain that runs under Lake Street. How are they going, like over the top of that drain or underneath? How are they getting around that? Because that seems like it's pretty close to the surface.
Yeah, the question was with the county drain that's running through there. How are
my parking lot? So
how are we getting around that? It is a big deal there. I'd have to look at the plans. I don't recall specifically, but I know we're not going through it. Any other questions? These all have been good. So if not, I'll thank you guys again. We'll make sure, if they're not back there already, the presentations are back on the table so you can grab one on your way out. If you got any questions, again, Sarah is here, Bill, we've got Mark, our two commissioners, Commissioner Stahauer and Commissioner Boersma are back here to help answer any questions you might have, so, as well as myself. So thank you all for coming out.